Well, the new administration is in and executive orders are flying off the desk. Is 2025 the year when Trump and the big energy companies are going to kill off the solar program? One prominent YouTuber seems to think so. Is he right? In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my take on where the solar market's going and how you can prepare. The smarter way to go solar. All right, we got another viral video from Jack the Solar Guy. Let's get into it.
If there's one thing we know is going to happen in 2025, it is that utility companies will continue to do everything that they can to kill rooftop solar. And in this video, I'm going to explain why this is happening and what you need to look out for with these utilities if you're considering an investment into solar for your home. Now, why is it that utility companies want to kill rooftop solar? Well, the fact of the matter is, every time somebody goes solar on their power grid, they lose a lot of money. And they lose a lot of money for three reasons. The first reason is that they no longer have a lifelong customer to sell power to. If a customer is on average paying $200 a month for electricity and the utility company raises rates by 5% annually without the customer noticing, over a 25-year period, that single household will generate just under $115,000 in revenue for the utility company. So that's the first reason.
Yeah, and that is the argument that I've heard in the past, and this is the argument that power companies typically make when they push back against net metering programs, is they say, look, we've invested all this time and money to put in the transmission lines, put in your local transformer, and run power service, run electrical service to your home. We're doing that in anticipation of having that lifetime customer that's going to bring in over $100,000 of revenue for your typical U.S. home. And so if you go solar with a one-for-one program and you zero out your bill, the power company has no way to recoup the investment that they've made in bringing electrical lines to your house in the first place. Well, let's continue.
The second reason is that in many cases, utilities have to upgrade their grid infrastructure to account for the added solar system. This means new transformers, new smart meters, and sometimes new transmission and distribution lines. Lastly, as more people go solar, the cost to maintain the grid often shifts to non-solar customers. And this pushes even more people to go solar, which only makes things worse for the utility. So in all, homeowners going solar is not something that they want. But why is it in the first place that a person who's gone solar has to remain connected to the power grid?
Okay, so I think he makes some valid points here as far as a lot of the costs for grid maintenance get pushed onto non-solar customers. However, what we know is that what a lot of the power companies are doing is even if they are offering a one-for-one solar buyback, they're increasing fixed charges or connection fees. They have different names depending on where you are. They could call it a connection charge or a standby charge or a service charge. But basically, it's a certain fixed amount that they're going to charge you just to have the electric meter active. Even if you have enough solar to zero out your usage, you may still end up with a bill, in some cases as low as about $8 per month. On the higher side, you could be paying about $45 or $50 a month just as your base fee to have that service turned on. And of course, those fees go to help cover the cost of maintaining the electric grid. But let's continue.
Well, the goal for homeowners with solar is to produce as much electricity over a year as they were previously buying from the utility company. So if you were buying 10,000 kilowatt hours a year from your power company, you would want enough panels on your home to produce 10,000 kilowatt hours annually in order so that you do not have another power bill again. But there's an issue with this. Solar panels only produce power during the day. So how are the solar panels going to generate electricity to cover the bill at nighttime when the sun has gone down? This is a really good question. And back in the early days of solar installations, the utility companies actually provided the solution. If a house had solar panels on the roof and during the day the panels were producing more power than what the house was using, that excess power could simply be pushed back onto the power grid and then sold to other homes in the area. And since the utility company wasn't the one generating the electricity, they would give the solar homeowner a credit for the excess power produced, and then that credit could be used to pay off their nighttime electricity bill. So as an easy example, if a household used 50 kilowatt hours throughout the day, 30 during the daytime, and then 20 at night, and their solar panels produced 60 kilowatt hours in the afternoon, 30 of those kilowatt hours would be used immediately by the house during the daytime, and then the other 30 could be sent back to the grid and then turned into a credit to cover their nighttime bill. And this program works great only up until the point which too many households are using it. To put it simply, once too many people go solar on their grid, utility companies no longer value the solar export as much as they used to. And that's not because they're mean or they don't like you. The reason is the abundance of supply.
Well, I would say this, even until we got to this point where there is an abundance of supply, and I think he's going to talk more about this, about certain times of the day now in California, there's more solar on the grid than the grid can even use. There's really like nowhere to put it. But even if you live in a market that it's not as developed in terms of solar adoption, the idea that you can just export all your excess solar to the power company and they give you full price credit, it really discounts what the utility has to do. I mean, basically, the utility has to take that electricity back in, find another customer to deliver it to, and then sell it to that customer. And so if they're giving you a full one-for-one buyback, chances are your neighbor is being charged the same rate, right? So let's say the power company buys your solar back for 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and then they sell it to your neighbor for 15 cents per kilowatt hour. The power company doesn't make any money in that transaction. In fact, they lose money because you're utilizing their power line, their transformer, their distribution system to get the excess solar from your house to your neighbor's house when there's no profit margin on the sale. And so this is another reason power companies are pushing back hard against this one-for-one net metering. But let's continue.
In markets that become mature, meaning places where a large number of homeowners go solar, rooftop solar is not hard to find because during the day, these areas have a massive supply of incoming solar generation, but a relatively low demand for it. And as a result, the value is lower. You see, utility companies are always performing this balancing act between energy generation and demand. And unlike conventional power plants, solar and wind resources can't be fully dispatched at will to meet real-time demand unless there's a battery system. To give a little more context, perhaps you've heard of the duck curve. A duck curve is essentially a line graph that tracks daily net energy load from the grid, and it gets its name because it looks like a duck. The example shown on the screen is for California in the springtime since 2015. However, in many solar-dense markets, it's going to look quite similar to this. You can see the tail of the duck represents early morning energy demand, which is fairly consistent and sees a small spike in the AM when people are getting ready for work. Then, once the sun comes out, California's massive army of solar panels kick into gear, creating the extremely deep belly of the duck. This influx of solar generation significantly reduces the net energy load for the utility. Keep in mind, the middle of the day is typically a period of lower demand anyway, but once the early evening rolls around, there's a huge spike in net energy demand due to two factors. One, solar power begins to taper off, and two, homeowners are getting home from work. This chart shows that the belly has gotten significantly deeper since 2015 thanks to the solar boom. However, the tail and the head of the duck, which represent the non-solar hours, haven't seen as large of a reduction. So to summarize, because of this balancing act between energy demand and energy generation in solar mature areas, solar exports have simply become less valuable to the utilities.
Yeah, he hit it spot on here. Basically, there is so much excess solar production coming onto the grid in places like California and Arizona. There's so much of this solar coming onto the grid during peak production hours that the power company literally can't do anything with it. And so that's why they're pushing back on offering full buybacks, is because they're essentially being forced to take in your excess solar if they don't have any buyers for it that are willing to pay them the same price or higher price than what they're buying it from the solar homeowners. It really is just a big cash drain on the power companies. Let's continue.
And that is why eventually with all places that are adopting solar quickly, the early adopters who are able to get grandfathered into one-to-one net metering benefit, but eventually the market matures and the utility company can no longer offer new solar customers the same program. This happened first in the state of Hawaii, who had to end net metering in 2015. Nevada had to do the same shortly afterwards, and most recently, the state of California had to end one-to-one net metering in the spring of 2023. Now, if you live in a state which has not fully matured yet and still offers one-to-one net metering, so places like Florida or Texas, you should absolutely appreciate it. It's becoming a thing of the past. And if your utility company still offers it and you have not gone solar yet, I would highly, highly suggest that you at least revisit the idea in order to get grandfathered into the one-to-one program. Because very shortly, possibly here in 2025, things could change for those markets as they mature, and the investment simply may no longer make sense.
But yes, Jack's absolutely right about this. The full one-for-one solar buyback programs cannot last. They simply do not work. We've already hit the breaking point in states like California, like he mentioned. Now here where I live on the East Coast, we still have one-for-one net metering, but we will get to a point. It may not be this year or next year or the year after, but eventually we will get to a point where there's so much extra solar coming onto the grid during daylight hours that the power company doesn't have anything to do with it. They don't want it, and therefore they're not going to provide a financial incentive. They're not going to give you a full buyback, or we might get to a point where they're not offering any buyback. I believe Hawaii is already like this, where Hawaii does not want you to export any solar at all, and you have to just consume it yourself or store it in your own battery. But let's continue. Just a quick word from our sponsor, Generac. If you're looking for an all-in-one solar and energy management system, then you need to take a look at the new Generac PowerCell 2. PowerCell 2 gives you total control of your home's energy system, incorporating solar power, whole house backup, intelligent load control, and generator support seamlessly integrated on a single platform. PowerCell 2 uses an AC-coupled architecture to facilitate ease of installation for new systems and retrofitting battery storage to existing solar homes. So if you'd like to learn more information, then go to the PowerCell website or click the link in the description below so you can get in touch with an installer right away.
But what does this all mean for the future of residential solar, or for homeowners who may not have one-for-one net metering today, considering that more and more utility companies are moving away from it? Well, the solution is going to be battery storage. You see, the issues come back to the fact that on average, solar panels can only provide electricity for homes during the 5 to 6 peak sunlight hours of the day, and given the fact that during those hours, the systems are producing more electricity than what the house is consuming, the electricity needs to go somewhere. And to play devil's advocate, I completely understand why at a certain point, the utility companies have to end their net metering programs. They simply cannot utilize all of the early afternoon solar production, and the more people that go solar on their grid, the more that they have to raise the rates for non-solar homeowners on that grid. Now, for a long time, people never thought that battery storage could be the solution to this issue, simply due to the costs. But really over the past few years specifically, battery storage prices have dropped significantly, making it a viable option for solving the net metering issue. Solar manufacturing companies saw the trend of less utility companies across the country offering net metering to homeowners, and so they decided to create low-cost battery storage systems. So instead of in the afternoon, homeowners sending their energy back to the power grid, they have that excess power go towards filling up the battery, and then after the sunset, when the solar stops producing, the home automatically switches to battery power. This is now the reality for all homeowners who are connected to the public utilities in California, Hawaii, and other parts of the country. Of course, there's still an added cost for these battery systems, and so while previously in parts of California could expect a 6 to 8 year payback period for solar, now it's going to be more like 10 to 12 years.
Hey, in my opinion though, there's no point of doing solar panels if you're not going to install batteries with it, right? If you really want to be truly energy independent, you have to be able to not only collect or harvest energy, but you have to be able to store it so you have energy available for nighttime or if there's a grid blackout. I mean, so I think very simply, if you want to be truly independent, you have to have some battery storage with your solar. Let's continue.
There is one particular innovation in the industry that I'm extremely excited about, and I have been proposing to many homeowners in these areas that don't have net metering, and that is the self-consumption battery. Many battery manufacturers over the past couple of years have learned that the use case for batteries for many people has become less about battery power during outages and more about creating an energy storage system for daily use. So storing the excess solar power during the day and then using it to power the home at night or during the non-solar production hours. There are many parts of the country, such as the Bay Area and Southern California, which rarely experience outages. And so what battery manufacturers have been able to do is innovate a lower cost battery, which are not necessarily designed to provide backup power, but instead act as a solution to the net metering issue. This involves them removing some components of the battery system, which allow for the systems to operate in grid down scenarios, such as the system controller and the automatic transfer switch. But for many people, that is not their priority.
Okay, well, for me, that would be my priority. So basically what Jack is saying here is that you can install batteries with your solar system, but if you want to save a few $1,000s, you don't have to install the transfer switch with the battery. However, it's that transfer switch, or sometimes they call it system controller or gateway, that's the device that allows you to disconnect from the electric grid and still energize solar and battery power into the house during a grid blackout. Just like if you have a standby generator at your home, that generator will have a transfer switch so that if the grid goes down and the grid becomes unstable, the house can be disconnected from the grid. The generator can still electrify the house without the risk of sending any voltage back out on the grid lines where you could potentially damage linesmen that are working to repair the electric grid. So simply put, in order to meet electrical code, if you want backup power, you have to have one of these transfer switch, gateway, or system controller devices. So yes, in theory, yes, you could install a battery without the transfer switch, just use it for daily use, but still be without power during a blackout. In my mind, it doesn't make any sense. You can go through all the trouble to put solar and batteries in, may as well put the transfer switch in so that, again, now you're truly energy independent. You can take or leave it, whether the power company's up or down, you're still gonna have secure power in your house. Well, let's continue.
And they can save upwards of $5,000 on the battery systems by not having those components installed. The two main batteries, which you'll hear about that can offer this configuration, will be the Enphase 5P and the Solar Edge Energy Bank, which are both great products which I've each sold. Now, if you think it's redundant to invest into a battery system which does not provide power to the home during outages, you can certainly include the system controller, but if you live in a place which does not have one-to-one net metering and outages are rare, I would at least encourage you to look at a proposal for each of the options just to compare them head to head. On a positive note, for people who do invest into battery storage systems with backup, there is one incentive program which is becoming increasingly popular all over the country, and that is called a virtual power plant program. Now, for those of you not already aware, while utility companies have benefited massively from the trend of home electrification, one issue that all utility providers have recently dealt with across the board has been grid stabilization, especially during summer months in the mid-afternoon when everybody is firing up their ACs and charging their electric vehicles at home. It's increasingly common for local utility grids to become overloaded, causing them to have to fire up peaker plants or, in worst case scenarios, resort to rolling blackouts. In such cases, they may literally shut off power to entire zip codes to prevent the entire grid from collapsing. So to combat this, over the past couple of years in states like California and other parts of the country, utility companies have begun to offer homeowners who have grid-connected deep cycle batteries the option to participate in what are called virtual power plant programs. In these programs, during peak demand days, the utility company can, in a sense, take control of your battery and then discharge the stored energy that you have available to other parts of the grid where needed.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but again, for me, I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, the whole idea for me is having solar and batteries is so I can be energy independent. Now, one of these programs where the power company can just basically tap in and drain my battery to quote unquote stabilize the grid somewhere else, for me, I'm just not comfortable with that kind of a situation. I would rather keep my battery for my home use, right? At the end of the day, this is about energy security for your home. I'd rather keep that battery for my use, know that it's waiting at 100% full charge in the event that there is a blackout. I know I'll be starting with a fully charged battery to carry me through the night, or if there's a period of inclement weather. I just personally don't have a good feeling about it. But in theory, if you're okay with this idea, this could be a way that you could help the battery pay for itself faster, is by making it available to a virtual power plant program for grid stabilization. For me personally, no good, but you guys let me know in the comments. Would you participate in a virtual power plant program if your power company offered it?
Now, they understand just like you that this stored power is valuable, so during these peak hours in some areas, they'll pay you a very good rate of between $2 and $3 per kilowatt hour that they discharge from your battery. This is great for homeowners who may decide to travel during the summer months, or homeowners using solar panels to power their homes during these times while having their battery prepared for outages throughout the year. And over time, you can really reduce your financial burden by utilizing a program like this. The best virtual power plant program that I'm aware of is available to Massachusetts homeowners, and it's called Connected Solutions. And if homeowners participate in energy sharing during the 4 summer months of the year, they can expect to receive on average $1,500 per battery per year. Now, almost all batteries today have the necessary software to participate in virtual power plant programs. So whether you're interested in the Tesla Powerwall, the Enphase 5Ps, or the Franklin Whole Home battery, all of these batteries will allow you to utilize this function as long as your utility company has a program available.
Yeah, guys, like I said again, virtual power plant, the idea of the power company being able to tap in and drain my battery, that's just not for me. But again, let me know. You guys out there, let me know in the comments, would you participate or are you planning on participating in a virtual power plant program if and when it's available? So this has been a discussion on will Trump and the big power companies kill the solar program in 2025? I think the long and short of it is solar is not going away, but solar buyback programs are going away. So if you really want to get the best payback on your solar system and become truly self-sufficient, you're going to be installing batteries with your solar system. By the way, if you haven't seen our previous video on top 5 solar batteries going into 2025, go back and watch that previous video where I give you my top 5 recommended battery systems for this year. So this is another reaction video. Again, Jack the Solar Guy, he's doing some great work over at his YouTube channel. If you haven't seen the channel, go check out his channel, look at his other videos, and go ahead and get him a subscribe as well. We just pushed it over 10,000 for his subscriber count. Let's see if we can get him over 15,000 subscribers in the next month. Again, the channel is Jack the Solar Guy. You can see it there below. Well, that does it for today's reaction video. Of course, if you're a homeowner, if you're in the process of looking at different solar or battery storage options for your home, if you need to get a price quote, or maybe you already have a price quote, you need to get a comparison quote to make sure that you're getting the best equipment and the best deal, as always, you can reach out to us on the link below here. Set up a call with a solar surge expert, or just use the free online quote tool so you can see how much solar and battery storage costs in your area. Of course, if you're getting good value from the videos that you watch here, make sure you give us a like and a sub as well. That way, as we have new videos like this coming out, it'll come up on your feed so you can stay up to date with everything. But that does it for today's video. I thank you all for spending some more time on the Solar Surge channel. And as always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.